Good morning and welcome back to all of you. I know all of you have been with us before. Just know that my heart is open as always, and I am grateful for each and every one of you. I'm grateful for what it is we do here at Open Door, for the opportunities that we have to open our hearts and our minds and our spiritual selves and receive, and as a part of that, to give and watch that giving come back. If this community is meaningful to you, my encouragement is share that meaningness with your friends, with your family, with others that you feel would benefit, and invite them here on a Sunday. I'll try to behave, but there's nothing in writing about that. So, all right, so we're going to start this morning. You know, I like as of late, at least this year, to seem to be involving in messages that come in series rather than one here and one there. So starting with this morning, we are going to start with a series of messages that revolve around 10. Now you may look at that and go, what the hey is she talking about? She doesn't know, so it's okay, more will be revealed. And it's not what is appearing on the next slide. Can we see this one? Anybody remember this?
Yeah.
Bo Derek, 1979, from the infamous movie 10, in which Dudley Moore plays a rather low-level Hollywood producer who falls in love with the woman of his dreams to the degree where he follows her and her new husband on their honeymoon in the vacation land of Mexico. What we would refer to as stalking nowadays, okay? But, you know, they probably wouldn't even show this movie anywhere because it's creepy. But he, in the end, I think he wins the fair lady. So, no, we're just starting with a series of things that revolve around 10, and we'll move back forward onto the next slide. We're going to look at things like 10 Commandments. Oh, that might seem pretty traditional for us here. That's okay. We're going to look at the teachings of Abraham and Esther and Jerry Hicks and 10 suggestions they have. Actually, Abraham has 11. Of course, Abraham would. We're going to look at 10 suggestions that come from the Dalai Lama. In doing this, we're going to look at numerology, which I just find fascinating, how numbers and things like that shape up to really reveal tremendous things about us. So we're going to be doing that for a number of the next few weeks. And today what we're going to focus on is the 10 Commandments, specifically the first 5, because I talk more than you would prefer, and we don't want to be here until 1:30. Katie will run out of things to do with the children and come down here very exasperated with me. So, as we start, I want to look a little bit at the number 10, because numbers, like I said, hold a lot of mystery. They hold a lot of information for us. In the field of numerology, anytime you have a number, such as a 2-digit number like 10, you would take the 1 and then the second number and add them together. And that is truly the number you would look at. So if we were looking at the number 43, you would have 7. And that would really be the number that would be, you know, called into form, okay, that would be empowered here. With the number 10, obviously, what we're looking at really is the number 1. Yet when we add a 0 to it, again in the study of numerology, what happens is that it amplifies, it uploads, if you will, or increases the intensity of what the number 1 is all about. If we find ourselves doing things like rolling a 10 when we roll a dice, or dreaming of the number 10, seeing it in the sky in clouds. I love that. That's amazing. And only for and through the eyes of a child, probably. I just think that's incredible. What happens when we invoke 10 is that it may represent that lots of changes, lots of really awesome good things are coming our way. In the Tarot, 10 is representative of the card for the Wheel of Fortune, meaning good things are happening, abundance is afoot, good health, all of those good things that we are looking for are moving into form for us. The Number 10 embodies energies or vibrations that surround an element of good luck. Through these vibrations, we may have insights into what we need to do for ourselves, what loved ones, what kinds of things, understanding we might get about things going on with loved ones, or even ideas about the direction in which all of humanity is moving, or what human beings as a collective need to continue to grow. So it's a pretty powerful statement when we pull up number 10. The number 10 resonates with the vibrations of qualities such as leadership, optimism, confidence. It's a 10, that's always, it's the best you can get, right? Independence, creative powers, success, high energy, originality, adaptability, determination, and individualization. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to look at a few of the 10 commandments, the first 5. In doing this, we're going to look at them from not just a traditional standpoint, though. We're going to consider what they might mean metaphorically or from a metaphysical standpoint. So just knowing this, often, I don't know about you guys, I had an experience much like what some of you have shared with me. I went to church as a young child. I was taken to the Catholic Church. I also went to parochial school. And, a lot of the stories, the things they told us that happened in the Bible, I just sat there and went, really? What? You're kidding, okay? It seemed to me to just be too much of a simplification. And I don't mean to make small any teaching, but that's the way I took it, even as a young child. When we think about Moses being given commandments by God, to me, the modern day interpretation of that is he channeled the sucker, okay? He did an Abraham or a Seth, or I don't know, there's a lot of other people out there that channel, okay? Whether it happens or whether it doesn't. I believe that every one of us is open to the energies of the creative principle, to the brilliance of God, or love, or whatever you would like to call it. So, I believe that, that's entirely possible, but it's just a little different spin if we think about Moses bringing into form something, through kind of a connection with it, okay? So I know that all of you are familiar with the story of the commandments. They're taught both in Christianity and in Jewish environments. And again, often they're taught from a very liberal or literal perspective. But I think that we are realizing as a people, as a collective, that maybe our sacred texts don't need to be considered in such a literal, or from such a literal standpoint, as they do a story, or as a metaphor, as a metaphysical kind of understanding. And I think we also are coming to recognize that all of sacred literature really is nothing more or less than guidance about how we need to live in right relationship with ourselves, with each other, with the world at large and the planet that we live on, with spiritual, whatever it is, chutzpah that surrounds us, okay? It's just really how do we, this is just really guidance for living the best, possible life. Again, to take the story of the commandments a little further, it's said that Moses went up Mount Sinai to receive this message, these lessons. So we're going to break that down. In Science of Mind, I would tell you that we don't have a lot of strong reference to Bible interpretation. The real star in the night light on this one is unity of Christianity. because I believe Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, Emily Cady, and some of those folks that followed that unity path really brought forth, studied and meditated upon and brought forth what the deeper intrinsic messages might be in the Bible. So a lot of what I am bringing to you in this comes from teachings from unity. They're our kissing cousin, if you will. When we look at Moses, that word, that name, the nature and understanding of what that name means is that it is all about drawing out, bringing forth, extracting, and especially bringing forth from water. Now, you know the story of Moses, more than likely. I'm sure most of us are familiar with it. He was born to a handmaiden of a princess or a queen. The Pharaoh, the Egyptian Pharaoh, issued a decree that all Hebrew male babies would be executed. And so Jochebed, Moses' mother, fearing for her child, made a basket or a boat of reeds. She set him upon the basket and sent him down the Nile River to find his fate. Lo and behold, he was plucked from the river by none other than the woman that Jochebed served, who was, I believe, the princess daughter of the Egyptian Pharaoh. She took the child in and raised him as her own. Jochebed, his mother, cared for him, and nobody knew it. You know, I love it when the universe gets one over on the bad guys, okay? Not that there are really any bad guys, but that's always like the comic book. Wee-haw, okay, we won. You know, got one for us, right? Okay? So Moses got put in the water, floated for a while, and was extracted pulled from the water. Now, water has a very deep and powerful meaning. Water, according to Jack Addington, in the hidden power of the Bible, hidden message of the Bible, I'm not sure which book it is. One of them is by Ernest and the other one is by Addington. I get them mixed up. But Addington says water is fluidic mind. It is God consciousness. It is the consciousness, the place from which wholeness comes. Okay? The home of the greater all it is. Okay? So Moses was drawn from the place of fluidic mind, of God consciousness. We could call that the mind of God, God consciousness, like I said, the wholeness of consciousness. Then it is said that Moses went up the mountain. He went on Mount Sinai, where he received this message. Mountain has a very distinct and powerful representation in metaphysical teaching. Mountain is about going up into higher consciousness. So the message here might just be, if we will go into prayer, if we will go into our solitude, our higher consciousness, that place where we feel more connected, then we will bring from that mind truisms, messages that are ours to live by. And these be messages that are good for all of time, any space and any place. To me, that is really powerful. Okay? It wasn't just about a guy who had supposedly today now are teaching us that Moses had a very severe stutter. I didn't look up the metaphysical meaning of that. Maybe I'll do a little more research for next week and we'll find out. But it's pretty interesting to me that there's a deeper possibility underneath that. And Sinai, the mountain that Moses climbed, that translates to that place from which God speaks, that place from which wholeness or love or truth emerges. On a very deep metaphysical level, the teachings of Moses suggest that we will benefit if we will align ourselves anew in every forthcoming moment to the truth that is found right here in that stillness. Moses' life story is about coming out of bondage. It is highly symbolic. It is these truths that we find here that unlock the doors of bondage. It is these truths that bring us to the land of milk and honey. Remember the promised land. This is the definition of it. Here in metaphysics, the promised land would be interpreted as the consciousness of divine fulfillment, perfect at oneness. So the first commandment, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have no other gods before me. I believe that this edict reminds us that the first and foremost relationship that we must always cultivate is that one with ourselves. And it is that interplay between the day-to-day me and the bigger I am that we must watch, always to ascertain that we are edging closer, moving from not falling over because our feet get stuck on the carpet, okay, that place of I am-ness, that place of coming from a greater level of the consciousness of wholeness. That includes ourselves. We understand in this teaching that whatever it is that is holy, that is whole, that is divine, that is perfect in nature, exudes, it expresses through everything and everyone, especially ourselves. We teach that God is inherently present in all that is. Perhaps the underlying wisdom of this commandment is that we need to really attend to how do we listen, how do we hear that still small voice. For in its smallness and in its stillness, there's huge greatness. Within its quiet nudging, we find the truth, the promised land. Thus we must listen. We must give ourselves time to be still and know and hear. The second commandment, thou shalt have no graven images. Well, that's kind of makes a lot of sense in today's material world, doesn't it? I think there's a layer of messages here, really. The message would be, your joy, your wholeness, our intrinsic capacity to really experience life at its fullest does not come, from the cars we drive or the homes we live in. It comes from how we live and live according to our truth and express that in the world. I believe another deeper layer of messaging here is around the message itself. Perhaps those graven images are the false beliefs that all of us are living with. We've all got them. Let's face it. Here at Open Door Center in our foundations class and our really brick and mortar baseline understanding of science of mind kind of teachings, we teach what Ernst referred to as the race consciousness. Now this does not have to do with the color of skin. It has to do with that repository of all thought, feeling, belief, from whence everything arises. If you're a Carl Jung fanatic, Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist, it would be the same place as the collective or similar street, if you will, okay, same street address, okay, as the collective unconscious that Jung talks about. So race consciousness is that place from which so much of the beliefs, the ideas, the concepts that it almost seems like we're born with and have to outgrow, have to outrun, have to outlive, okay, come in with. The more that we have those hardwired false premises as beliefs, the more important it is for us to take them out and really look at them. How many of your ideas were yours? Which ones came from your parents, from your teachers, it was really interesting to me when I got to a place in looking at my spiritual life, and I began to realize, yeah, there were ideas that came to me, but some of them didn't come from my family. They actually came from those early religious teachings. My mother was kind of a rebel. I remember being 4 or 5 when she grabbed hold of me, and it was like she shook me. And she said, don't listen, don't believe everything they tell you, because it's not all your choice. You need to go within. This was my mother who dragged me to Catholic church 52 times a year and all, every freaking holy holiday or whatever, okay? God love her, you know? But she knew she wanted me to have something, but she knew that they didn't have the only answer, and she wanted me to know that. It brings to mind that bumper sticker that we see not as often anymore. Maybe we need to revise this and put open door on there that says question authority. Question what they're telling you, because it might be that your truth is very different. Thank God I found something that warms more to my heart, okay? But with this statement, I believe we are simply being told, look at our beliefs, look at what is coming to you, and decide whether it really is your truth or not. If it isn't, turn away from it. If it is, then grab hold of it and live it. The third commandment, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Well, you know, at my office where I work on my day job, they just pray for me a lot, okay? Because I take a lot of things in vain, you know. I'm like, yeah, sailor, you know, the irreverent reverend is a nice way to put it. Let's just say that, okay? You know, I always have an opinion, and it's usually like, okay? But no, I try to be nice. From a metaphysical standpoint, we have to begin to understand that the word name doesn't have to do with a name. It has to do with the essence, the nature of something, okay? So thou shalt not take the nature of not Lord, but law. Law. Remember spiritual law. The only real law you ever need to be up on, that you need to remember, is very simple, and it's very exacting. It is that everything we think, everything we believe, all that we subscribe to, our feelings and everything, and their acts, are all going forward. They don't believe in time. They're going forward to lay the stage for that which we are thinking about to become our life. Okay? Thou shalt not take the nature of the law in vain. Meaning, if you don't want to see it forthcoming, then don't look at that other presidential candidate, for God's sake, okay? You know? I had to get a political, you know, it's just, never mind. Okay? I'm living by the law, you know? It's right, okay? You know, just know the truth, and the truth will set all of us free, right? Okay? You know that every individual is embodied by the divine and lives for the highest good of everyone. That's all we have to do here. That's it. Okay? It might take a few elections, but by God, that's it. Okay? All of this refers to one primary law. Again, it is that spiritual law that what we are is what we get. That's it. Okay? You want better? Be better. You want greater? Be greater. You want more? Give more. Okay? It's powerful. It is really important. Thou shalt not take the nature of the law in vain. Period. Okay? The fourth one, and I'm going to read the whole thing because there's some stuff about it that's really interesting. Now, this is about remembering the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. It goes on and says, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, by God, okay, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord has made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. here's where we start getting into numbers. And numbers, metaphysically, are just fascinating. They're fascinating, okay? But at face value, we could look at this and we go, this is really an important thing, you know? When I was in ministerial school, I had to read a book that was written by a Quaker woman, a very devout Quaker woman, and I like Quakerism. You know, they're cool. They're really about the planet, and they're really about caring about each other, so they kind of have that, I'm just going to call it hippified, they might not appreciate that, but they have that knowing that, you know, all the stuff around us is really important, that it's important about how we live and treat each other. My neighbors, when I was a little girl, the Catholicism was mediated. My neighbors were Quakers, and I often went with them to meeting. I couldn't figure out why those people sat still and they were quiet all that time. You know, I still have trouble with that one, but, you know, it was pretty interesting. But that whole thing of give yourself time to rest was what this Quaker woman had written about. She had started practicing that with her family, and they had developed a day, and that day was the day in which, you know, the food just got brought out of the refrigerator. There was no intense cooking. The children didn't have to do work or homework. They didn't do yard work or housework. They just allowed whatever it was that lived within them to direct them in what they would do. Being together, being separate, being in solitude, whatever it was. They really listened to that. Certainly it is an powerfully incredible spiritual practice for us to spend time in engaging with the creative principle and to just let it have its way with us. Not when we're tired, not when we're needing to recoup, when we are feeling filled up and able and open to whatever direction we might be directed in. This is kind of the time, I believe, that we heal, that more creative things come to us, the ideas on how to live our lives, the insights we might need or value around friends or family, different things we need to do in the arena of work. So it's very important. Aside from all of that message, there's the commentary here about family, relatives, sons and daughters. And what we find metaphorically in the Bible is that these can represent thought, while the reference to cattle, to animals or livestock, often that represents a little lower intellectual thought, perhaps kind of a feeling sort of based thought, heart-centered emotions or sensations. We look at 7, the number of 7. 7 is often a number that represents completion. So the interpretation here is that once we've done our work in prayer, that we are able to turn things over to the creative process, just let it go, release it to the universe, and know that it's handled. Walk away from it, recognize it's done. In this teaching here in Science of Mind at Open Door Center, in our form of prayer that we refer to as spiritual mind treatment, our last step is called release. This is where we send it off. We know it's done. We claim it. We've invoked truth. We know health is present. We know wealth is present. We know divine love. Anything else that we are working toward bringing forth is ours. And in that last step, we say it's done. Okay? We let it go in Science of Mind doctrine. So we see that fourth commandment even represented, deeply embedded in some of the things that we teach here. Lastly today, we'll look at the fifth commandment. Here we're told to honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Here again we find it important to recognize that often sacred writing is highly symbolic. Father may represent the conscious kind of intellectual stream of thinking, whereas mother The divine feminine is those softer thoughts, perhaps those feelings that emerge. They tend to be more esoteric. Here we are instructed to honor all of that, not just the intellectual awarenesses that we have, but the heart-centered feelings, the gut stuff as it emerges, that is that sacred truth coming into our awareness. If we honor all these parts of us, our time in the consciousness of God, in the consciousness of wholeness, will be long. Hear that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Land refers to consciousness. Consciousness has been referred to as the ground, the baseline, the foundation of all that emerges. So here we are encouraged to honor our intellectual selves, our feeling selves, and also to recognize that when we do this, we will have more opportunity to be in that ground of all consciousness, that beingness, that God consciousness or consciousness of wholeness, we could call it. So essentially, these 5 elements are telling us very simply, we will move forward in life if we consciously honor the spirit within, the voice of it. If we bring our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs into the light, into a greater place of awareness, and we consistently dedicate ourselves to cleaning house, to consciously cleaning that stuff up, if we give time, thought, and attention to that spiritual stuff that is truly what we are made of. In this, what do we find? We find very simple lessons, maybe complex when we first look at them, okay, but easily interpreted, that are a recipe for living in any age, at any time of life, in any station of life. If we can apply simple spiritual practice, we know the road is made clearer, the path is made easier. So as we go from this place, what we are doing by living this is not only living ancient wisdom, we are truly living modern quantum science by recognizing that when we follow these simple edicts, what manifests has to be a world of greater peace, a time of more embodied harmony, a time which, regardless of race, that would be color of skin, or heritage, or sex, or lack thereof, or whatever planet we came from, we live from that place not only of love for ourselves, but for every other being on this planet. Next week we'll look at the last 5. Get ready. I love you guys. Thanks.